Hi, my name's James Marshall, a Director of Stratus Financial Group and a contributor at Resources Unearthed. Are you an Australian expatriate returning home to Australia soon? There are several things to be aware of when returning from a period of overseas service. It's imperative you're aware of what your foreign and Australian tax obligations are. Let's start with foreign tax considerations. Are there any outstanding tax obligations in a foreign tax jurisdiction? You need to fully understand what these issues are so you can plan for them. For example, you may need to complete foreign tax returns for different periods of time, particularly where assets were acquired while outside of Australia. If you do need to lodge a tax return overseas, any foreign tax paid may be included as a credit in your Australian tax return. We will coordinate with specialist tax advisors to ensure your foreign tax obligations are met and all relevant transactions, assets and income have been accounted for. Moving on to Australian tax residency, there are some key points to consider. At which point you cease being a foreign tax resident and at which point you resume Australian tax residency, noticing that tax residency across different jurisdictions is not mutually exclusive. Guidelines provided by the ATO being broad and not specific to your circumstances, and avoiding surprises by understanding how your Australian tax residency impacts your assets. Working with your tax advisors will ensure you receive targeted and strategic Australian tax residency advice. Finally, let's talk about executive share schemes. There are a number of tax considerations to be aware of. You will need to understand tax implications for future vestings, as well as vested shares from an Australian and foreign tax perspective. You will also need to know whether withholding tax will automatically apply to future vestings. For shares that have vested, it's important to understand the cost base of those assets from an Australian perspective, as it's not always the value of the shares at the time of vesting. Be aware that if you sell shares that were granted or vested while you were overseas, you could have foreign tax payable. Taking all of this into account, it is essential that if you receive any remuneration through an executive share scheme, coordination between your financial advisor and tax advisors is needed. The importance of assessing your financial position and implementing the right planning and tax strategies all takes time. At Resources Unearthed, we seamlessly manage this process for you and coordinate your advice professionals to ensure you receive the right advice at the right time. If this video has raised any questions for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for watching and thanks for sharing this video with your colleagues.